Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first official. Okay, maybe not first official. I did post episodes of this years prior. Basically, mm, hold on. Let me start all over. This is a live show now. This is originally going to be a scripted show, so to speak, but this is going to be a completely live show now. Right, hold on a moment. Put that up. So you might be wondering, what is this? What is the silly little idea of a show? Um, a few years ago, back in 2020, I came up with an idea of taking two movies, right, and just deciding to see which of those two films were was better, you know. And it was supposed to be recently released films at the time, you know, because there's several movies coming out almost every other weekend, you know? So I figured, why not do something about that? Why not pick two movies that came out, you know? But then the pandemic happened, and well, I couldn't do anything. I was stumped. Like everybody else, I was stumped. So I had to put this in the back burner for a while. But now is the time to bring a new spin on it. And that is Movie Versus, the show where I take two completely different, but also somehow somewhat strikingly similar features and decide to see which of the two movies was better. In this episode, we're going to be covering. Oh, hold on. We're going to be covering Dune. Dune, the 1984 film directed by David Lynch, and the latest one directed by Denis Villeneuve. Now, how is this going to work? Well, I have decided to segment this in seven distinctive slots. All right? Seven different categories: star, co star, slash, love interest, villains, side characters, music, and so on and so forth. And I decide to see which of the two films has the better one over the other, basically. And by the time we get to the best picture, that's when you know, yeah, this is it. This is the real deal. This is what we're going to be talking about. So today we're going to be discussing Dune and Dune. And yes, I will be going over spoilers for Dune Part 2, even though the 1984 film kind of already did that already. So if you have not seen Dune Part 2 yet, don't watch the 84 film because it also covers that it also covers part 2. Like part 1 and 2 is supposed to cover the overall story, the overall narrative of the classic novel by Frank Herbert. Dune, the 84 film, is basically part 1 and 2 combined into one 2 hour long epic. And it's a film that has sadly been dismissed by David Lynch himself because of the amount of studio interference that he had to go through when making it. But I believe that there is a much more refined version of that film called the Spice Cut. I believe it's on YouTube or something. If you want to go ahead and check that out, go right ahead. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. But we're not going to talk about the Spice Cut. We're going to talk about the theatrical cut of Dune versus Dune. Technically, Dune Part 2 is going to be a part of it. So, without further ado, let's get into the stars of Dune. Paul Atreides. Now, the 84 film had Kyle MacLachlan and the the Villeneuve version, the current version, is played by Timothy Chalamet, and I thought both were fantastic. Um, but it's very clear that the Timothy was going more of a definitely going more on the book side of things. In fact, like the current version of Dune that you see in theaters right now is definitely more in line with the book. So you're going to be hearing that a lot going forward. All right. So, um, well, I do think Kyle was magnificent as Paul. I'm not gonna lie when I say he is not the right age for this kind of story. Like, this is supposed to be a coming of age story type, where we see this young kid who is destined to become this great leader and all that. And when I see Timothy, I definitely see it. He's definitely the right age group. He's very young. He's got that I would say child sense of wonder, but like he's definitely got that youthfulness to the character of Paul, while Kyle, it just feels like he's just a college kid, just not a college adult. Forget about college kid, and that's what kind of like threw me off for a little bit. He definitely gave more of a Luke Skywalker type, if you will, if that makes any sense. It didn't really feel like, okay, this is supposed to be a character that has so much on his shoulders to the point where he ended up embracing that. You know what I mean? Because in the Timothy Chalamet version, like he also has that great deal of burden, but you feel it too. You feel like, oh my god, this poor kid has this great responsibility that he has so much to live up to that he eventually embraces that, whether it's by his own choice or not. And um, like, I think Timothy carries a great deal of gravitas to his performance, like giving it, especially when you get to part two, when especially after the scene where he drinks the water of life bit. And while I do prefer the way it looked in the '84 film, right? Like it had that more psychedelic touch to it. For some reason, I never really got that in part two. I just like he drinks it, he quote unquote dies, and then he just gets brought back to life by Shani all of a sudden. Like, I didn't feel that sense of, oh my god, that like he drank it and he's magically like this. Meanwhile, in the '84 film, he has that sense of doubt, but then he goes through that idealistic transformation, and when like the transitioning of this character in the '84 film was a bit better in my opinion, but I do think Timothy's performance alone was what was the make or break for me. So, which is why I have to give the first point to Dune, to Warner Brothers Dune. Yeah, going forward, I'm gonna just simply just call it Universal's Dune versus Warner Brothers Dune. Yeah, Universal handled the distribution rights for the '84 film, while Warner Brothers did the current version of Dune. So I hope I got that through. Okay. Now let's get down to the supporting cast, the co-stars, if you will. And let me tell you, there are a bunch. This story is packed. For example, we got the House of Atreides. We got Duke Leto, Gurney Halleck, Lady Jessica. These characters. Like we got Shani and the Fremen. We have the Harkonnens or the Harkonnens, if you want to. I prefer Harkonnens. In the Warner Brothers version, they call it the Harkonnens. I'm calling Harkonnens. That's just me. And we got the Empire and the Bene Gesserit. Like, there's so much. Ooh, jeez, I didn't mean to do that. But okay, so I'm gonna go by bit here because it is gonna take some time. But here we go. Um, the casting in both films is just magnificent. Um, Obviously, we've got Patrick Stewart as Gurney Halleck, and we got I don't remember the guy who plays the '84 version of Duke Leto, but Oscar Isaac just killed the performance, and Roberta Ferguson played Lady Jessica in the new one. I don't know who played Lady Jessica in the '84 film, and I thought both versions were pretty on par, to be honest with you. But it all goes down to the central context regarding the main character, and that is Paul Atreides and how he is affected by the story. And I personally think, like I said, like Kyle is just not the right age, because him and the guy who plays his father, they look more like brothers rather than father and son, and that's what really took me out of it a lot, really. Same deal with Shawnee and the Fremen. I just felt like the Fremen was heavily underutilized in the '84 film. Meanwhile, in the Warner Brothers version, it's there is much more groundedness. There is much more emphasis on the Fremen. Like, you understand what their culture is like, how they operate, where they live, and how they like. It is much more fascinating in this regard. The fact that there are two factions regarding the Fremen. We got one side that is overtly religious and believing that Paul could be this prophetic messiah, and we got this other faction that's like, this weirdo, really? Did this young kid really? That Please get out of here. I really find that fascinating, and the way they handle Shani, especially, like, she isn't just this random character that Paul just randomly kisses in a random series of montages. It's like you see the relationship flourish over time in the Warner Brothers version. Like, you see what these two mean to each other, and what happens by the end of the film is all the more heartbreaking. This is probably one of the better romances I've seen in a long time, honestly. And as for the Harkonnens, oh my god. Like, it's a mishmash, to be honest with you, because while I did not like the look of the '84 film, especially when it comes to Baron, I think Baron Harkonnen was handled much better in the Warner Brothers version. I preferred his like the over eccentric performance by the original a lot better, in my opinion. But I cannot say the same about Fade Routha. Look, Sting is amazing, okay? But much like most of the characters in the '84 film, they were heavily underutilized. But they did give it their all. I will give them that. Austin Butler's Fade Routha is just pure bliss. Like, I think this is the better version of the character. He's a monster in the film. Like, you'll see it if you haven't seen it already, you'll know it, because my God, he was just he was a monster for sure, a horror character, if you will. And the Empire and the Bene Gesserit, like the Bene Gesserit, like they're both equally as good. I think they're both handled pretty well, but I cannot excuse the Empire. Okay, like, I love Christopher Walken, but I just saw Christopher Walken in this movie. I didn't see Emperor. Like, what is this? What are we doing here? I personally think this is where the Warner Brothers version dropped the ball hard. While yes, the book version, like the Warner Brothers versions are trying to be more book accurate. I think that comes to a cost of it being memorable. Well, like I said, the only memorable characters from the Warner Brothers version was Gurney Halleck, Fade Rafa, and Shani. Everybody else felt was just like they're just there. You know what I mean? So I gotta in this case, I have to give it to the '84 film. I thought that the characters in the '84 film was a bit more memorable. Sure, they weren't accurate to the book to an extent. And while yes, the Warner Brothers film put more emphasis on specific characters like the Harkonnens and the Fremen and all that, they gave a sense of great history and culture. I just think that the '84 film was a touch bit more memorable, in my opinion. So, as for the music, like, once again, when it comes to going to the movies, it's all about the memorability of a film, and it's kind of top. It's kind of tough to top Hans Zimmer. Toto did a great job, along with I forget the guy who did the actual score for the film, but hold on a moment. I want to check something out real quickly. Did I do something wrong? Did I do something wrong here? Oh my god, I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. I thought this was a. Give me a second. Give me a second. I need to get better at this. I feel so unbelievably stupid right now. I should have double checked this, triple checked this. Yeah, I kind of figured. Gotta fix this. It pains to do the solo sometimes. Seriously. Yeah. Hold on a moment. I just gotta fix this. I'll fix it later. I'll fix it later. Yeah. So yeah, I forget the guy that did the original film, but he was pretty good. But there's just something about Hans Zimmer that adds a level of depth and like complexity. The the track titled, hold on, what was it called? A time of quiet between the storms is an example. Like the soundtrack alone is just ooh. I can't say anything else, man. I think this yeah, I have to give it to Warner Brothers Dune. So now for the cinematography. Oh boy. There's just something quite classy about the way um David Lynch handled the original source material, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know. I love both. They're both handled beautifully once again. Like, to be honest, I love both films. I want to get that out of the way before I continue. That like I just think that I like this was a really tough call to be honest with you because both films were gorgeous. Were undeniably gorgeous when it comes to the cinematography. Hold on. But I'm sorry. Like while the '84 film has that classic touch to it, if you know what I mean. Warner Brothers version has this more grandiose look to it. I mean, look at the shot of the sandworm alone. Well, I do appreciate the classic '84 design of the sandworms. I'm sorry. The Warner Brothers film just like mm, you get that sense of scale to it, and not to mention the lighting effects and the fact that like this felt so real, like like this could actually be a thing. And the slow moving shots of the sands alone, where you can see the spice coming towards the screen at various moments, it just like Greg Fraser, who handled the cinematography for Dune's Part 1 and 2, who also did The Mandalorian, Rogue One, The Batman. He's continuously proving himself to be one of the leading experts in cinematography in this day and age, and it shows. I got to give it to Warner Brothers Dune. It just looks fantastic. Hell, the poster alone reflects that. That's how gorgeous the cinematography is. It's unbelievably good. Now they're writing. I gotta have to give it to the '84 film for this one specific reason only, and that is, look, I appreciate the level of depth and complexity the original, the original novel, as well as Dune's Part 1 and 2, trying to adapt all that material in one. And while, yes, it is nigh impossible to condense all of that into one 2 hour movie, I have to commend David Lynch for and his team for actually doing the best they could and surprisingly getting a lot of the material from the book to the screen as much as possible. I was genuinely shocked. Well, obviously they glossed over a lot of moments from the film, like how Paul was training the Fremen to fight against the Empire and all that. Like it was all with a bunch of narration from Princess Arulin. I think that's her name. It's a Florence Pugh's character in the new one, where she's doing a lot of narration, but like in part 1 and 2 there, she's clearly reciting a diary. Well, in the '84 film, they just like use it as just like use her character as an excuse just to like speed up the story as much as possible. Well, I do like, on one hand, it does seem kind of lazy that they would just like skim through all that just by pure narration. I think in terms of trying to get this across under a 2 hour time limit, I think that's quite commendable. That's why I have to give it to the '84 film. That's just how I see it. As for the direction, it's honestly really tough. It's honestly really tough to choose the between the two filmmakers. David Lynch is a legendary filmmaker, but Denis clearly has a much bigger, absurd passion for this universe that by mid last year, pretty much during the strikes, um, what are they doing up there? Jeez. During the strikes last year, Denis Villeneuve went straight to work on writing the script for Dune Messiah, essentially, or Dune Part 3, if you want to call it. and that's incredible. Like he has a clear hand in everything that goes on. Every frame, every shot in in his movies is done with pure precision, without no interference from the studio. Surprisingly, I didn't hear any bad vibes coming from Warner Brothers, considering Warner Brothers right now is in a whole can of worms that I'm not going to get into for the sake of this episode. But I do think that Denis Villeneuve had a better handling of the material than David Lynch, because he clearly has a passion for it. And I know David Lynch also has a passion for it, but he like the you know it's bad when a filmmaker denounces his own work. That's the sad truth. I really feel for David. I still enjoy Dune 84, but you can clearly tell that the studio hampered a lot of the a lot. Meanwhile, I didn't see any of that with Dunes Part 1 and 2, so that's why I have to give it a Denis Villeneuve. And it's also probably why I think, yeah, Dune Parts 1 and 2, Warner Brothers Dune, which however you want to call it, is the better film. I still enjoy the 84 film. One of these days, I'm definitely going to check out the Spice Cut as well later on. That, like I said, that restores a lot of the missing elements that were gone from the theatrical cut of the 84 film. I believe it's on YouTube somewhere. I got to look around, but I do recommend you do the same. But yeah, this move, these latest Dune movies are phenomenal. And I just started reading the book myself. I have never read the book before. And that's how you know how that's how good this story is. It's so good that got me actually wanting to read the book finally. I put this off for so long, but now I actually started to read it myself, and now I'm going to be reading this along eventually Dune Messiah whenever they start to announce that they're working on Dune Messiah. I'm really pumped for that, man. Next episode, okay. So I was kind of debating whether next episode I should do Ghostbusters versus Ghostbusters 2016, but I consider that a bit of a massacre. If that, because like one is going to win over the other, similar to Ghostbusters versus Ghostbusters Afterlife, because the upcoming Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is coming out pretty soon, which you better go see it. I hope it's good. Um, but I'm instead, a fellow friend of mine actually gave the suggestion to do Ghostbusters versus Spaceballs. So that is going to be a fun episode. So, yep. And you won't see me in 2 weeks just because I need to prepare for that. I need to prepare the slides and everything just like I did here. And hopefully, episode 2 of the show will look more refined and a little bit more prepared, because clearly it wasn't. So, yeah. If you haven't done so already, it's been roughly 2 weeks already. Go see Dune Part 2. It's in theaters right now. I saw it twice already. I absolutely loved it. I do recommend you check it out as like right away. And I do recommend you actually watch Part 1 back to back. Uh, it just gives a little bit more weight to the material if you watch it back to back. That's what I highly recommend you do. Don't see it if you have not seen Part 1. It is imperative that you do. All right? Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Which Dune did you like better? Comment below. Let me know. Please hit the like button and subscribe for more. Hit the bell notifications for when we upload. Also, go follow us on Twitch at Crimson Arts Gaming, and go follow Captain Nemo Gaming 425 on Twitch as well. He's been a big supporter of the channel since its inception, really, and I do, even though he was not really part of this episode, I still want to shout him out because he's just a really good friend, and I appreciate all the support he gives. So anyway, that's it for me for now.